end. But let's sort of start from basic principles, even more basic than mindfulness. Let's think about what is the goal for a society, what is the best society. And I think that the great step forward that mankind made was in the 18th century, when we moved to the idea that what mattered was happiness on earth, and the best society was the one that provided the most happiness, and in particular, the least misery. The great 18th century Enlightenment ideal, I think the greatest idea of the modern age, and of course the foundation for thinking about what is the purpose of education. So I think where we come to applying that to education is, if I can make my share screen work, right, there we go. So the purpose of education is obviously to develop capacities in young people that will increase their own happiness, both have a good childhood, really important. It's not just preparation for life, it's life, but also, of course, subsequently as an adult, but also, of course, to prepare children to contribute to the happiness of the rest of society. And I think that a key part of education should be young people learning that their role in life is to create as much happiness as they can. I'm a co-founder of Action for Happiness, and the pledge that all members of Action for Happiness take is that I will try to create as much happiness as I can and as little misery. And I think that this is really important from the point of view of teachers, parents, but of course, deeply into the norms which young people absorb. That I have a purpose here on earth, and that my purpose is to create as much happiness as possible. So let's move on. Yeah, so what are the factors that make for a happy society? One way of looking at this is to say, well, there's a huge spread of happiness in our population. What are the factors, the main factors that differentiate happy people from less happy people? And here are the factors. The biggest one is mental health. Physical health also matters. Quality of work, whether you found a partner. And you can see income is much less important. So I think it's not surprising if we then ask the question, well, what features of childhood best predict whether a person will be a happy adult? If we can go to the next one. Lo and behold, it's not their qualifications, it's their emotional health when they're, let's say, at 16. I think this is quite remarkable finding, and one I hope you'll all use in arguments with your head teachers or others, that a simple test on one particular day of your emotional health predicts better whether you'll have a satisfying life than all the qualifications you get, including up to a PhD. So it's quite obvious that we've got to make the well-being of children a central objective of education. Now then the question is, can schools actually do anything about the emotional well-being of children? Some people say, well, schools should do what schools are best at, which is academic education. It turns out that this is not at all the case, that some schools do extremely well for the well-being of their children, and some schools do extremely badly. In fact, let's have the next slide, the findings of this study, which we did, I think quite extraordinary. This is based on the study in Avon County, Bristol and surroundings, that's followed all the children from that were born in 1991. So here's the snapshot of their emotional health at 16. What are the factors that best explain that? Family background at the bottom there is everything we know about the parents, their income, socioeconomic group, the mental health, family breakup, all these things. Primary school is simply which primary school they were at 5 years before this measurement, And secondary school is which secondary school they're at when the measurement of emotional health is taken. Now, isn't it extraordinary the power of the difference which these schools are making to their children? And it just shows that we've got to take very, very seriously the way in which schools impinge on the well-being of their children. Okay, let's move on. So what can schools do? One thing is promotion of mental health and well-being. And the other, of course, is to make sure that ones who are struggling get help. So let's talk mainly about promotion. That's the positive side. Let's move on. So how can we promote mental health? Well, we must first have it absolutely explicit that the happiness of the children is a goal of the school. And it's got to be agreed as a goal between all the teachers, governors, parents, and so on. The next thing I think would make a huge difference is if it was measured. And the problem we have at the moment is obviously that we measure their academic performance and we don't measure their well-being, and what we treasure is what we measure. So the whole bias is to measure, is to increase the measurements that people achieve in their tests and exams. We need something to balance that, and therefore we should measure well-being. This is the progress, of course, of the well-being of children as they proceed through the school. And there's now nearly all children in Manchester are having their well-being measured. Children in years 10 and 12 are having their well-being measured, and this is hopefully setting a standard for the rest of the country. Then I think a school needs a well-being code which is signed up to by all the teachers. Any teacher who's recruited has got to be questioned in the interview of their attitude to things in the well-being code. Parents have got to sign up to it, children have got to sign up to it. And then we've got to have the teaching of life skills at least once a week. And I want to talk quite a bit about that. Now, obviously, mindfulness is a very important part of that. And you've been doing this for many years, many of you, which is absolutely wonderful. I've been involved for the last Healthy Minds, which is an attempt to develop a curriculum, a weekly lesson plan and materials from years 7 to 10, which of course includes mindfulness. So we have the standard kind of 8 lessons in mindfulness, not taught, of course, by people as well into it as yourselves, but it's an important part of the curriculum. And then we practice it at the beginning of each subsequent lesson. So here's the curriculum. If you could do the next. Yeah, so we designed the curriculum by searching the world. I had a postdoc who traveled the world, really trying to find the best programs to deal with each of the topics on the left-hand side. And then we put them together into a weekly curriculum for those years of life. So mindfulness appears at the bottom, but in fact, it's taught in the first year and the practice in the remaining 3 years. Let me just show you how you can access this curriculum if you're interested. There's a very good organization called Bounce Forward that you may know, which can provide you with the materials. The essence of this whole thing, of course, is that teachers shouldn't be teaching things that they haven't been trained to teach. These are such difficult subjects. And I started in a way from the experience of the SEAL program, which the Labour government introduced and was evaluated by Neil Humphrey at Manchester. And he found it had no effect. And it's really crucial that when we do these things, we just don't do them in a well-intentioned way. We do them in a way that's effective. And his explanation of why it was not working was it wasn't sufficiently structured, it wasn't sufficiently detailed and manualized, so that it didn't just require an inspired teacher to do it, but it could be done by the average teacher. And of course, the teachers have to be trained to use these materials. And for the Healthy Minds program, this organization, Bounce Forward, provides 1 week of training for each teacher before they teach the next year's materials, if they haven't taught them before. And I think that's crucial. If we want to really deal with the well-being problem in schools, we've got to train teachers in how to handle these difficult things. So let me just go on and show you the link to Bounce Forward. That's it, info@bounceforward.com. And let me show you the results of the curriculum. Next one. So there we have, you can see that the primary goal that we registered before we started was global health, and that increased among these children by 10 points if you think of children being ranked from 0 to 100, the children who've done the course on average compared with the control group have gone up 10 points, which is a really substantial, worthwhile result. Okay, let's move on. So this would be my summary of what we need if we want to get a well-rounded life for our young people. We need weekly relationship, sex and health education. It's a farce that it's not required. The amount of time is not required. It's said to be mandatory, but no time required. So we've been pushing Nadim Zahawi to make it a weekly thing, the department to provide guidance or regulations to require that, just as they do with PE, that there should be teachers should be trained on evidence-based materials to deliver it. That would include your materials, Healthy Minds, many other programs available, and that child well-being should be measured on a regular basis so that we could see, schools could see if they're helping their children to improve or not. So let's talk a bit about politics. I think we need a campaign to make these 3 things come about. And I would suggest that each of you might think of writing to Nadim Zahawi, saying that this is what's needed, in your own words, and mention mindfulness, of course, by all means, and then send a copy of it to your MP and ask if you can talk to your MP about it. But we need some pressure to make this happen. I mean, this is just not going to happen without some sort of a campaign. So any help that any of you feel like giving to get this thing onto a statutory basis weekly, to get funding and structures for the training of the teachers and similarly the measurement of child well-being, I think it would be terrific. Let me finally move on quickly to mental health. As you know, mental illness has been growing really seriously among young people. Let's move on. So we had a big opportunity in the debate in 2017 about what to do about child mental health. And I thought that the Green Paper was good. And it only had 3 recommendations, which is also very good. So the first one was that there should be a senior lead on mental health. I think that that is happening, though you'll know better than I am, in most schools. The second is that there should be no more than a 4-week wait for CAMHS. But of course, the problem with CAMHS is that the threshold is so high that unless you're engaged in physical violence or against other people or yourself, it's very difficult to get treated in CAMHS. And so we advocated, and this is what is there as number 3, we advocated that for children, it was essential that for children below the CAMHS threshold, but still with serious problems, there should be a new service analogous to the service called Improving Access to Psychological Therapies for Adults, which has been pretty successful. So these are being set up, as you might know, these mental health support teams, but tragically, slowly, they're in fact only meant to be covering a third of the country after the first 6 years of the program. I mean, it's pathetic. There needs to be a lot of pressure on that too, to speed up that program and to enhance its quality. Whereas the adult program has high intensity and low intensity therapists, this program only has low intensity therapists. That's not good enough for our children. It doesn't properly cover behavioral problems, conduct disorder, although we have thousands of people who've been taught how to run group training for parents with behavioral problems. That needs to happen as well. So there's a huge amount that needs to be done. Any political pressure you can exert on that, please do so. Let's go on a sec. Yeah, so here are the mental health support teams. I've said my piece on that. And in fact, I've said my piece on pretty much everything. I was pleased when you introduced me. There was a flash up of the book that I've written that covers some of this, but perhaps we could just have the next one. There's the book, hardback and paperback. I think that if you think how people will view us and the times we live in when they look back in 30 years' time, one of the things they will find absolutely extraordinary is the lack of attention that we pay to child well-being. And I think that you are absolutely at the cutting edge of trying to deal with that. So very good luck to you, but let's have a discussion of what can be done.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Richard. So do people want to put in the chat any questions that they have for Richard? And what I will do is just field those. And while we're waiting, Richard, what are your thoughts on, I mean, the Times has done this big education commission report. I don't know if you've had a chance to see that, but they're saying sort of reset education. And I hope it's contributing to the debate, but I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I think it's a very important move. I think it's absolutely right. There should be this pressure away from a sort of mindless, mechanical pursuit of exam success based on the idea that this is going to produce a more productive workforce, to a more civilized view that we need to produce rounded people who are capable of enjoying their lives and contributing to the economy and society. I think it's really hugely important to encourage everybody to read it.
Fantastic. There's a few questions about measurement, Richard. So I've been asked, one delegate has said, I've been asked to recommend a well-being measurement tool for schools in our multi-academy trust. Do you have any recommendations? And is there a difference between primary and secondary measurement tools that are most effective? Well,
good question. Obviously, the best established measurement tool is the Strengths and Difficulties questionnaire coming from the Institute of Psychiatry. That tends to concentrate, though, on, as it were, the negative sides. So there are other questionnaires which concentrate on positive sides, the Hubner scale, and so on. If you're interested in that, we put in a note to the government on what we suggested, 50 questions. If anybody wants to email me, r.layard@LSE, I'll happily send you that. But also please look at the Manchester thing. Now let me tell you how to find that. It's called B, which is BEE, well, WELL, Be Well. If you go into Be Well, you'll find a lot of what they have done there, including their questionnaires and their results.
And then a really good question here, Richard, from Caroline Wilson, which you must get asked an awful lot. I'm wondering about the definition of happiness. Please, could you say a bit about your thoughts and research on this?
Well, let's start with adults. And this question can be asked of anybody over 10. Overall, how satisfied are you with your life these days? I mean, this question has been asked for the last 60 or 70 years in many countries. It's a very sensible question. The answers are 0 to 10, 0 extremely dissatisfied, 10 very satisfied. This, incidentally, I mean, in terms of validity, this is one of the best predictors of how long you'll live. One of the best predictors of whether you'll quit your job, your marriage, many other things. One of the best predictors, a good predictor of productivity, and the best predictor, better than the economy or anything, of how people will vote. So, I mean, it's a very well tried question. Now, when you come to younger children, of course, it's difficult, and the best sources of evidence are actually other people for children below 10, like their parents or teachers. But I would say that life satisfaction question is the one that I and many of us are promoting as a sort of standard thing. And then, of course, you can have many other Warwick Edinburgh scales and so on. But as one question and one way of thinking about it, are people satisfied in their lives? Are they, another word, we like to use grander words, don't we? Like fulfilled and so on. But I think satisfied is a good word because you can sort of be more than satisfied and less than satisfied. It sort of anchors it well.
Okay, there's a few more. Do everyone have a look in the chat there for some of the comments? Richard, can I ask you a question? Because I struggle sometimes with the difficulty of measuring certain things that matter. And I suppose if I ask you to cast your mind back to your school days and to ask you who was the teacher that most inspired you, and how could that have been measured?
How could the effect of the teacher be measured?
Yes, on you. If you think of your childhood in school, and we can all think, I invite everyone to think.
Of course, a number of teachers, but yeah. certainly one at primary, one at secondary. But on teachers, I'd like to say that in this work that we've done on this Avon longitudinal study, where these children have been followed now for, how long is it? Nearly 30 years. It is extraordinary that if you look at the person when they were 20 and try to explain, for example, whether they went to university or not, you can find an effect of the primary school teacher, which primary school teacher you had at age 8. I mean, that's really remarkable, isn't it? I mean, that in that the massive things that happen to somebody, it's a powerful enough thing to pick up the effect of who taught you at age 8 will affect whether you go to university.
Extraordinary.
Or I think also whether you take drugs or unemployed, a range of things.
Richard, is there anything you'd like to say, sort of as a few final thoughts before we wrap up?
Well, I mean, I think that if we're thinking of where the great heroic battles are being fought in our society now, I think this is one of the most important areas where progress or otherwise of our society is being determined. And I think that it is important to take this into the political field, because we need resources and we need expertise. We need some serious effort to be put into this. I mean, some of it can be done, obviously, without action by politicians. Schools can decide to spend some money sending people to learn healthy minds or mindfulness in schools. But for the whole country to be transformed really requires political action. And please do harass your MP about this. Do write to Nadeem Zahawi, and I think we can have an effect.
Brilliant, Richard. Thank you.